Natasha.
Debbie.
Show.
The show.
Welcome to it. Just two patriotic girls.
Learning about the world.
So please, don't take us the wrong way.
Hi, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Natasha and Debbie show.
Belated New Year. Our first episode of 2025.
Isn't that crazy? 25.
We started this in 2021 in August. And yeah, we're surprised we're still here. I bet you are too. But how long we'll be here is up to you. So things that can help us stay are little things.
Little tiny things like hit that like button.
Yeah, that
right
does
down
it.
there. Just click it.
And even more importantly, it's all free to do this.
It is.
The subscribe button.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's free. And
that's right. And that way you'll get notifications when we upload. And
only if you turn on the notifications, though.
That is right.
And if YouTube doesn't turn them off on you. Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
This was a really awkwardly long, minute-long thing about things. So today's episode, our first of the year, is a title that caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart.
And your heart?
I don't know. And it's an episode that sounds like it's going to be really cool. And I hope that you guys have an interest in this because I think this is going to be epic. What's it called?
It is called The Hidden History of Britain's Spies.
I happen to be a spy. Not anymore. I just got fired.
You just got fired for being a spy.
I just submitted it. So I'm not a spy.
Not a secret spy.
I just play one around the house in the kitchen sometimes. Spying on what's Debbie cooking. That's my spying. There's also, well, you're a curtain twister, so that's kind of a spy.
Yeah, I'm definitely checking out what's going on around the neighborhood.
Anyway, so without any further ado, we want to know, what is this hidden history of Britain's spies? This says this is unveiling the veil inside MI6's covert world. Delve into the shadowy history of Britain's elite intelligence agency. Simon always says the same thing from the first sentence anyway. We'll all find out together. I'm excited about this. Are you excited about this?
So excited. I can't wait to find out all the information in this.
I have no idea what it's going to be. And if you're excited, again, subscribe. It's 2025. It's a New Year's resolution. Subscribe to all the YouTube channels that you like. I'm done with this.
Tap that like button.
Check us out on Patreon. That's a lot of plugs. So let's stop plugging things.
Cheeky. Let's get into the video.
Of all the world's intelligence agencies, none have a reputation for secrecy, for operational cleverness, or for smooth, swashbuckling efficiency that comes even close to that of Britain's MI6. Known for its secretive real-life operations from the time of the World Wars through to the present day, and revered for its fictionalized portrayal in the James Bond franchise and a library's worth of literature, the United Kingdom's Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS, has captured the world's attention as one of the best spy agencies out there. Now, we can't accurately say that we're going to take a deep look at MI6 today. After all, nobody gets a deep look at MI6, as we're going to talk about today at length. But what we will do is take the closest look that we can toward an organization that is, in many ways, unparalleled in its history or in its modern role in global intelligence. The historical roots of MI6 go back as far as 1569.
Okay, I didn't know
when Queen
that.
Elizabeth I, Secretary of State, Sir Francis Walsingham, assumes a role of...
That dude was a badass. Do you know much about him?
No, I don't.
Okay. Maybe we could find a video on him. Would you be interested? I would. I mean, what I know about him is, yeah, he was pretty much a spy. But I didn't realize that this went back to Queen Elizabeth I. Huh.
Very interesting.
Let me know if you'd want us to find a video on him, because I would be very interested to learn more about him.
When Queen Elizabeth I, Secretary of State, Sir Francis Walsingham, assumes a role of spy master within the Elizabethan government. An industrious and incisive leader, Walsingham made it his business to assemble a network of spies, informants, and other assets across Europe and North Africa, exposing multiple plots that would have deposed Queen Elizabeth I. Walsingham's work is probably worthy of a video on this channel all its own. So let us know in the comments if you'd like to see that.
Well, I'm going to see if he has one.
Suffice to say, the Secret Service he oversaw evolved directly into the organization that we know as MI6 today over the course of several centuries, of course. MI6, in its modern form, would coalesce in the early 1910s during a period of escalating tensions that led, of course, to the First World War. Troubled by Germany's apparent desire to challenge British interests as a competing imperial power, the British public and its leadership alike began to fear that German agents had infiltrated the UK. Prime Minister Herbert Asquith, who at the time was attempting to hold down a fragile and frequently panicked Parliament, attempted to assuage public concern by directing the UK's Committee of Imperial Defence to investigate any potential German subversion. The committee's solution was to convert Britain's latent intelligence personnel into a Secret Service Bureau, or SSB, which was established in July of 1909. Initially, the SSB was split into a home section and a foreign section, with Mansfield Smith Cumming, an officer of the Royal Navy, chosen to lead the foreign section. In the years prior to the First World War, Smith Cumming and his senior staff set to work training new personnel and beginning to grow the SSB's potential. This was a race against time, in direct competition with the spectre of a war that was seeming to be more and more inevitable. When hostilities kicked off in 1940, the SSB was instrumental in influencing Allied operations and strategy, even as the agency, like the rest of the world, received a brutal and unforgiving introduction into the conditions of a modern total war. Among the SSB's major intelligence coups during this time was the cultivation of an asset named Karl Kruger, a former German naval officer who sold a long list of secrets to the UK during the war. SSB officers also oversaw the establishment of a network of some 800 spies in German-occupied Belgium known as Les Dames Blanches, who kept careful track of daily German troop and supply movements throughout the country. And already, the SSB was beginning to distinguish itself in several ways from other intelligence organizations at the time, not just in terms of its reach and operational versatility, but its willingness to rely on married and unmarried women, as well as wounded military personnel who could no longer fulfill roles in frontline service. Although the group had been unable to establish a foothold in Germany, they were adept at using assets in third nations in order to glean critical intelligence. These key adaptations, as well as notable creativity out in the field, began to set the SSB apart as a far more utilitarian intelligence service than, say, the Germans or the French. Now, after the war's conclusion, the SSB leveraged that practical approach in infiltrating newly Soviet Russia, trying to get an accurate read on Bolshevik leadership while dealing with constrained resource availability back at home. The years immediately following the Great War were significant for several other reasons, not least the culture of intense secrecy that began to settle over the whole organization. Although the SSB was already a surreptitious bunch, it began to withhold significantly more information than before, even from the British government, including the location of its headquarters. This strong preference to remain in the shadows would become synonymous with the organization through time. The other big change that we should mention is that although we've been referring to it as the
How do you... How can you even do that? How can you hide the headquarters from the government? Like, aren't they good government still too, though?
Yeah, I would think they're still part of the government, but you're not gonna... I guess
that's
the more secrets you have, the less people that know who you are, where you are.
That's okay. This is fascinating to me, which is why I'm more quiet than normal.
Taking it all in.
It's a lot of information, but I also wonder, and I almost paused and asked it a couple minutes ago, should we already know this? Do y'all know this stuff? Is this common knowledge there? Because certainly ain't here. I'm curious. So, not their headquarters. Also, is that now known? He's getting ready to say something important, so I want to go back and rewind that just to hear what he's about to say.
To remain in the shadows would become synonymous with the organization through time. The other big change that we should mention is that although we've been referring to it as the SSB thus far, the service had actually cycled through a list of names before, during, and after the war. It was in about 1920 that the organization's proper name, the Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS, came into being, with MI6 being more...
I always thought SIS meant Spies is sexy.
That would work.
I mean, if it was SAR, it would have been Spies are sexy.
What does MI6 stand for? Mission International 6. I don't know. I'm not thinking good.
Mission Impossible.
Maybe he'll
6.
tell us.
I didn't watch the first 5.
No.
Hi, welcome to the Natasha and Debbie show, where we say dumb things in the middle of videos that are very very interesting and intelligent, and that's why we do that. I don't know.
There's so much going on in this video.
Spies is sexy.
Finding all the as much secret stuff as we can know.
I know. I want to know it all. But I am a spy. I was until I started this video. I forgot about that. So I typically used to know these things.
Proper name, the Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS, came into being, with MI6 being more an informal title that the SIS adopted during World War II. Now, some of the defining characteristics of the SIS also came about during this time. The informal title of C, bestowed upon every SIS chief in honor of Mansfield Cumming, and the tradition that the chief of the SIS writes using green ink, which Chief Richard Moore confirmed as a continuing practice as recently as 2021. In these war years, the SIS remained hard at work, attempting to navigate Britain through an electrically charged international environment. Their enemies, rising fascist powers in Italy and Germany, the spectre of a fully fledged communist state under the Soviets, and tenuous circumstances among allies, adversaries, and colony states alike. The years leading up to World War II saw the SIS turn its attention toward the sorts of paramilitary operational capability that have become a hallmark of modern intelligence services, and in 1938 the SIS established Section D, a division responsible for planning and carrying out sabotage and other direct action operations abroad. In advance of the war, Section D scoped out Germany's electrical, logistical, and communications infrastructure and made plans to insulate Britain from any potential acts of sabotage that might come about during the war.
Okay, Section D sounds... I didn't name it, okay? It just sounds like one of the cooler ones. Like, you know, one of the more like, this is like the juicy, the bits, the juicy bits. I feel like that's a British thing to say. The bits. When talking about D. Section D.
Yeah.
For, you know, dangerously cool.
For the bits.
Hey, if you've ever been a spy in the comments, let us know.
Don't know if anyone is going to reveal themselves like you have.
Just don't say my code name, okay? Just shh. We're not going to reveal my code name.
I don't even want to ask.
You know what it is.
I don't even want to ask.
I want to be in Section D. Moving on.
Section D scoped out Germany's electrical, logistical, and communications infrastructure and made plans to insulate Britain from any potential acts of sabotage that might come about during the war. The SIS also began operations at Bletchley Park in Buckinghamshire, where code-breaking personnel and weapons designers flocked to begin churning out some of the war's most influential technologies. Notably, the SIS did not break relations with the Gestapo until 1937, previously considering the group a more valuable ally in their anti-communist operations than they were a potential enemy. Once hostilities opens in 1939, the SIS swelled massively in size. From an organization of under 100 people, it grew to well over 800 at the headquarters, with additional personnel in the field. During World War II, SIS brought back their intelligence networks in Belgium, which were crucial in monitoring Germany during their sustained assault on the British Isles. The organization also managed a network in occupied France, led by Marie-Madeleine Foucard, who kept careful tabs on enemy troop movements and weaponry. SIS also set up outposts in other occupied territories, where their officers were meant to lay low and operate independently, other than relaying signals back to London and Bletchley Park. At Bletchley, crucial cryptological work was taking place to break and exploit the Enigma machine and other Nazi codes. With the demands of the war came a more robust organizational element, and the SIS's first official training courses began in 1943. The increased operational capacity this provided would see the SIS recruit enough operatives to undertake massive operations like the ones carried out in France prior to the D-Day landings, where some 60 agents scattered across the area and provided in-depth assessments of the lay of the land. The SIS wasn't without failure during this time, though. For example, the plot in 1939 to depose Adolf Hitler saw 2 agents abducted by the Nazi SS. Likewise, numerous other agents took enormous risks during the conflict, many of whom paid the price for their bravery. But the group was also able to coordinate international intelligence gathering on a truly impressive scale, not just running their own networks, but helping occupied nations build their own. The SIS's relationship with Poland was particularly crucial, as the UK and Poland took advantage of the Nazis' preference to use Poles as slave laborers across the territories that they held. Those laborers became incredibly valuable eyes and ears present in just about every location where the Nazis did anything of significance. And all of that intel was funneled right back to the SIS.
Very
Much
smart.
like the rest of the
Very
intelligence
smart.
world, the end of the Second World War wasn't so much an opportunity to take a well-deserved vacation as it was to quickly pivot to the front lines of a rising Cold War. The SIS took the lead on this effort alongside American and French intelligence, and they subsumed other wartime clandestine organizations into their ranks. But unlike its heralded victories in World War II, the Cold War saw MI6 go well and truly dark. And it's at this point where the organization's history becomes much more nebulous. For perspective, the British government only cleared a release of joint British and Polish intelligence about World War II collaboration in 2005, a timeline that would suggest we're still a good few years off getting any substantial information on the Cold War period of British intelligence. We do know a few tidbits, though, and as usual with super-secretive intelligence agencies, news really only emerged during that time in the event of a significant operational failure. For example, SIS officer Kim Philby was outed as a Soviet double agent in 1951 after serving for over a decade in the ranks of the SIS. Philby had risen to the head of counter-espionage operations, where he assumed direct responsibility for countering Soviet influence in Western Europe. From this position, he was able to expose Allied operations against the Soviets and had a Soviet intelligence officer arrested after that officer attempted to defect to the UK with a list of every Soviet agent inside British intelligence. Philby eventually fled to Moscow and wrote about his actions. Among other SIS actions that proved difficult to
It's definitely something you have to worry about in the spy agency versus the double agents. Ones that are working both sides. So you were a double agent, huh?
I cannot confirm or deny. I've already given out too much, ma'am. Sorry. Wind that just 1 second. I just want to hear what he was going into.
Philby eventually fled to Moscow and wrote about his actions. Among other SIS actions that proved difficult to stomach during this time included the UK's efforts to resist the movement of Holocaust survivors toward Palestine, an endeavor that would see the SIS bomb several empty ships in port that had been meant to transport refugees. The SIS is also known to have participated in the overthrow of Mohammed Mossadegh in Iran in a 1953 coup organized and orchestrated by the American CIA, and they've coordinated support for the Mujahideen in their resistance to Soviet occupation, including by providing weapons that would resurface during the War on Terror. And other SIS officers, including international operative George Blake, were compromised, yielding significant intelligence gains for the Soviet Union. But the SIS was also able to continue collecting massive amounts of crucial intelligence in these years, not least from their continued interreliance with agents inside the Polish government. Multiple Soviet moles, including Oleg Penkovsky and Oleg Gordievsky, were able to funnel intelligence to the SIS.
Wait, what? Were those two? Did I hear that wrong?
I don't know.
Were they double?
Take your heart.
Hold on.
Continued interreliance with agents inside the Polish government. Multiple Soviet moles, including Oleg Penkovsky and Oleg Gordievsky, were able to funnel intelligence to the SIS, including information that depicted Soviet missiles in Cuba immediately prior to the Cuban Missile Crisis. And while, again, the vast majority of SIS activity during the Cold War is still unknown, it's clear that SIS maintained a major presence in various third nations around the world, including in Malaya, Borneo, Kenya, the Congo, and Vietnam. And it was around this same time that the organization gained a bit of mythology around the world, courtesy of the James Bond franchise.
I knew he was going to say that.
The British government did not acknowledge the existence of SIS until the end of the Cold War, when in 1994 the organization was confirmed to be operational. Shortly following the announcement, the SIS...
Wait, is that the first time they were ever confirmed to exist? Was in 1994? Did I get that right?
That's what he just said.
Really?
Suspicions, but no confirmation.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And yet you have all the James Bond movies.
Yeah. Well, gee, the CIA was just like, hi, we're the CIA. How you doing? We're just going to come right out and say who we are and what we do.
That is true. Here we are.
Here we are. We just created ourselves. We're a spy agency for the United States. Meanwhile, Britain's like, oh.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's not. You guys have a spy agency? That's just weird.
We don't have a secret
Keeping secrets, America.
Service.
But you're, and the UK is all like, no, we, nothing. 1994 rolls around, they're like, It's the coming out day. Sorry. Not surprising me.
In 1994, the organization was confirmed to be operational. Shortly following the announcement, the SIS was subjected to a number of legislative acts meant to increase its accountability and have it scrutinized by other parts of the government. This is
why you don't want to tell anybody that you're doing that. It's confirmed, because that was going to happen.
Exactly.
a major change for the SIS, which previously had basically unilateral authority to act as it saw fit with minimal external oversight at all.
I wonder what was
In
better.
recent decades, the organization has found itself subject to even greater scrutiny, especially as it relates to the war on terror, where the SIS's role has been more clearly established. In the modern day, the SIS is responsible for international counter-terrorism and counter-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, as well as cybersecurity and measures to deal with instability abroad. Since the Cold War, the SIS has reshuffled from a series of divisions targeting geographic regions to a series of mission-based divisions with broad functional mandates: counter-proliferation, counter-terrorism, counter-narcotics, global and functional issues, and various support units meant to make the whole organization function. Underneath the intelligence chief, 4 director generals oversee the agency, including the director of operations, the chief's deputy overseeing strategy, the head of technology, and the head of administration. The identities of these deputies is not released to the public, and neither are the structures we assume must exist below their rank. The organization has had to accommodate funding cutbacks at various times, contributing to an erosion in the SIS's intelligence gathering capability that culminated in its faulty assessment on the presence of WMDs in Iraq prior to the 2003 invasion. Former MI6 chief Sir Richard Dearlove has gone on record discussing several elements of the organization, not least its increasing need to rely on legal experts and other outside consultants to justify its operations after the organization became subject to regulation. He's also pointed out the importance of the Bond franchise and other spy novels in strongly influencing MI6, not just in its reputation, but in its ability to recruit new agents and operate internationally with more of a cheeky wink and nod about who exactly its operatives are, turning these works of fiction into a lubricant that can make SIS operations far easier to actually undertake.
Thank you, Ian Fleming.
Finally, Dearlove has explained the increasing role of advanced information technologies in SIS operations, especially alongside the Five Eyes intelligence network between the UK, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Other MI6 agents have confirmed that information gathering, long at the heart.
If you're from the UK, US, Canada, Australia, or New Zealand, yes.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, that's fine. But that part was about that. So, and that's just cool. So, yes. Sorry.
Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Other MI6 agents have confirmed that information gathering, long at the heart of the agency's mission, has become even more important, with the ability to gather mass amounts of data on potential assets or enemies. Now, not much is known about the SIS's training regimen, although
I was curious about
in
this.
early 2023 did see the location and floor plans of a previously secretive training facility in central London accidentally leaked. That facility has since been relocated. The agency's website describes myriad roles and responsibilities a potential applicant might be trained for, from a work as an intelligence officer to a language specialist to a scientific engineer or cyber operator. The agency also makes clear its intense vetting process, where British citizens who choose to apply will be extensively interviewed and investigated prior to receiving a job offer. But as for what
You're none of you. Now y'all are nope. He said extensive background checks. No, sorry guys. And I'm not a British citizen, so wah wah wah. There goes that idea.
Be extensively interviewed and investigated prior to receiving a job offer. But as for what actually goes on during training,
I want to know.
Well, we can't tell you.
That's not
One
fair.
thing we do know is that women are taking on an increasingly larger and larger role in MI6, even after the organization has been historically ahead of its time on relying on women as a crucial part of intelligence operations. After the Second World War, the agency's willingness to recruit women to the ranks had largely dried up. But in the modern day, that's no longer the case.
Good.
According to a Financial Times piece in late 2022, 3 of the 4 director generals at SIS were women at the time of writing, and the organization has made public pushes to recruit women and ethnic minorities, both to increase diversity in the office and to expand operational capability abroad. Women have been considerably less present in MI6's science and technology departments, but efforts are ongoing to recruit more women to these specialized roles as well. Due to the continually secretive nature of SIS operations, it's difficult to pin down an exact modus operandi for the group. Any information that might compromise mission integrity is closely guarded, and above all, the identities of those taking part in MI6's operations are never revealed. Anonymous agents who've occasionally been interviewed have validated some of the more sensationalized aspects of work at the SIS. For example, the presence of gadgetry experts who resemble the famous James Bond character Q. But since
Q's awesome.
SIS is not subject to the same guidelines for the recent documents as, say, MI5, it's rare that even older documents about MI6 are ever released to the public, let alone current ones. As such,
I could feel your wheels turning. I could feel it. Go ahead.
Can you? MI5.
I knew that was coming.
And what does it stand for?
I don't ask.
It's driving me nuts.
We can Google it
Simon,
after.
tell me. He's not telling me. So if you know, tell me.
I think we'll find out. You know we're going to get 800 comments just on that alone.
Well, I hope so. It will be drilled into my brain.
No one knows, Debbie.
I know it's probably a secret.
You're not allowed to know. What could it? I don't know.
Older documents about MI6 ever released to the public, let alone current ones. As such, most useful information we can glean about the modern SIS is from an analysis of the few operations that have become part of public record. The War on Terror has provided valuable insight as to how exactly the SIS distributes its personnel internationally, and although it's worth noting that the UK did not take a military lead on operations in either Iraq or Afghanistan, the SIS presence in those countries was still
sure they
tiny
are.
by proportion to its overall military footprint. No more than 50 SIS operatives entered Iraq at any given time, with a similarly light touch in Afghanistan. In both countries, the organization structured its agents into small cells, delivering tactical information and conducting surveillance and interrogations. In general,
how do you know?
Which appears to have been an effort to do more with less, and focus on agents' outsized ability to perform quality work rather than inundate the area with operatives who could become redundant. The war also saw SIS open new overseas stations and recruit significantly more personnel while undertaking parallel operations in Libya, Yemen, and Syria. Among the more recent interests of the SIS have been an attempt to hunt down and prosecute individuals responsible for war crimes in the Balkan region, including high-ranking Yugoslav and Serbian officials linked to a long list of atrocities. These operations were marked not only by the SIS's dedication to carrying out the will of the International War Crimes Tribunal, but by scandals in which at least 5 British nationals were exposed in Croatia, Serbia, and Bosnia as being part of an MI6 spy ring. Although all agents survived exposure, the revelations led to a protracted international incident between the UK and several Balkan nations, where a legacy of collaboration with known war criminals is still very much ongoing. They also led to continued suspicion of the SIS's alleged interest in planning and carrying out assassinations abroad. And the actions of the SIS in Libya, before and during the civil war there, have led to additional revelations on how the group operates in hostile nations and combat zones. Working with the British Special Air Service, Special Boat Service, and Special Reconnaissance Regiment, the SIS established an informal unit known as E Squadron, which operated in plain clothes in order to coordinate with Libya's newly formed transitional government.
I should have done this at the beginning of the video. I didn't think to. Slow him down. I know some people have commented in the past that he speaks too fast. And I'm going to slow him down just a hair. I know it's pretty much over now, so sorry, guys.
Overthrow Muammar Gaddafi. The group was exposed after a team of E Squadron members were inserted into Libya, captured by local rebel forces, and eventually asked to leave the country by senior rebel leaders. While there is no evidence to suggest that this was anything more than an isolated incident, there's rarely any such evidence when the SIS is involved, and the incident forms an interesting blueprint on how the organization may go about cross-coordinating with similar rebel factions. The SIS's own online history says it most succinctly, and we'll simply quote them here. Our authorized history ends in 1949, and the secret nature of our work means we cannot give more information on our operations since. So many of our more recent successes have gone unnoticed. Without a doubt, the UK's most secretive intelligence organization will not be breaking that silence anytime soon, and certainly not to reveal anything that might come even remotely close to placing a British interest or a British citizen, or most of all, or one of its own assets at risk. But although we simply have no idea precisely where the hidden hand of the SIS is at work around the world, we feel comfortable reporting that the organization's reach extends much further than one might initially guess. Take a look at a map of global flashpoints or a foreign affairs section of a newspaper, and the name MI6 will almost certainly be absent. But to assume they aren't there at all, well, that would be fairly ignorant.
I loved it. I should have turned him down to make him slower at the beginning. Sorry for those that may have some trouble with him. I personally don't. But he sounded drunk when I did do that.
He did.
He sounded a little drunk.
He just gives so much information.
Very quickly.
And I love getting all of that. It's a little hard to take it in at the time and catch up. And
I always watch his
but
back.
That's just fascinating.
I know.
I love it.
Well, and I like at the end how they said in that formal statement that it's like their recent successes have gone unnoticed. That's because they were successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. We want that. We want to not notice you, MI6, or we're not MI6.
Yeah, you can't be secret intelligence when you're out there going, hey, we're over here. Look what we did.
CIA.
Not going to quite work out for you.
What did you learn from this one? I learned a lot of stuff that I need to go back and learn again because I need to watch that. That's because it is a lot, but it was really interesting. And I knew the stuff I really wanted to find out about. I wasn't going to.
No.
That sucks.
Because then we know too much. And then
no, I get why. Yeah.
I know. But still, I want to know what the MI stands for.
All right, let's look it up now for you.
Oh, military intelligence.
Where do you see that? Section 6.
Now makes sense. That was so easy.
So MI5 was military intelligence section 5. Section 5, the thing
Well, now we know.
Doesn't matter how you got there, as long as you get there, right?
Get there. And that's wow.
Hey, if you guys liked this episode, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. We'd appreciate it. Let us know what you learned, if anything. And if you're a spy like I was before the beginning of this video.
And if you like outing yourself, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know.
Yeah, and any way that means outing yourself. No, I found this to be really, really fun and educational, obviously. And yet this is just like so hard to ever find out what you want to know, all the cool stuff. You'll never know. That's why we like love watching James Bond. So,
absolutely.
Again,
it's interesting to find out how long it's been around, how long that we know of that they'll admit to.
Exactly.
Maybe it was
1994.
Earlier.
I'm just kidding. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the next episode. Until then, and as always, please love like jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Bye.
Bye.